Hi there, Richie Vitale here, and I want to talk to you about the blues and how easy it can be to play. This is a method that I use with classes, large classes, and it takes minimal amount of notes. Usually the problem with students is they tend to put too many notes into the blues or any song. So what I'm trying to do is inhibit the number of notes you're using to make things really easy. Now the blues is like ice cream. It should be easy to play and fun to play. So usually what I start out with is blues in the key of C on the trumpet, which is B flat concert. And I give people the blues scale for the first part of the playing session. And usually there's 3 parts to a session. So I'll give you the first part. It's the blues scale, which goes like this. And those notes are C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, B flat, and C. So those notes would be the root, which is a C, the flat third, E flat, the fourth, which is an F, the sharp fourth or the flat fifth, either one it could be called, that's F sharp, the fifth, which is G, the flat seventh, B flat, and C, again, the root. So there's blue notes in this scale, which thus it's called the blues scale. We have E flat, which is the flat third. We have F sharp, which is the flat fifth. And we have B flat, which is the flat seventh. Now, in this scale, there is no B natural, no natural seventh, and no natural third, which would be E. It's a really cool scale, but I don't like teaching it so much the way it's written in textbooks, which is because that's not really the way I learned it. One of the best methods was hearing blues played from records. And there's a record by Freddie Hubbard, and on it is a song called Blues for Brenda, and it went like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I thought that was a really cool way of learning the blues scale. It was descending in reverse the way you usually learn it in school. So I'll play that again. 3, 4. And from that, I developed different ways of playing. For instance, all of those motifs could be used, or really anything you think of, but those are kind of neat ways to play. Now, when I talk about students playing too many notes, I could play the blues like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, for the last part of the blues, I was using 2 notes. I was using a C and an E flat. So it could be that easy. Now, another thing I want to mention is if this melody is too high for you as a trumpet student, if you're a beginner trumpet student or you're in high school, you could change it like this. I didn't go above a middle C that time. Also, with your soloing, same idea. You could not play so many notes and stay around the middle register, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the first chorus. Now the second chorus, I only added one note. Well, two actually. One was A, and then when I got to the G7 and the F7, I played this. So that adds a little more flavor. There's a little more sauce there. So this is how I would play using the A. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the A. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the A again. So that phrase, you have a lot of leeway, but the reason I put that in the second chorus is I'm trying to point out to students that there's a landmark there. We're hitting the G7 and the F7. So I'm playing the upper structure. Instead of going like this, I'm simply going. You could play it like this if you want. Or there I changed one note, the D. Instead of E flat D C, I played E flat A C. But the important thing is that you know that you're hitting the G7 there, right? So or you could play something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you get more complex, you could put more notes in that are out of the scale. For instance, I could use some chromatic there, like this. Now, the third step to this practice to play the blues is to pay a little more attention to the chord structure, even the scale. For instance, a C7 has only one note difference from a C major, and that is the B, which is the 7th. It's flattened. So this is a C major. That had a B, the second last note. Now it's going to have a B flat. Second change will be an F7, and F major has an E in it, the major 7th. But an F7 has an E flat. So it goes C7 to F7, back to C7. And then where we play our two motifs, it's a G7 to an F7. And G major has an F sharp in it, is the major seventh, but a G7 has an F in it. So that's the difference between major and dominant scales. So G major with an F sharp, and now G7 with an F. Now, of course, when you blow on the blues, you're not just going to be playing scales, so it won't sound like this. That gets kind of boring real quick. So what I do is I try to get little motifs or melodies that sound pretty, that are pleasing to your ear, and thus they're pleasing to the audience. And a lot of this is based on what former great trumpeters or saxophone players or guitarists or any instrumentalist has played. And they're tried and true. And of course, improvising means you're doing your own thing. But still, there's a huge library out there for us to learn from, and you should use it and then develop your own style. For instance, something over a C7 I might play would be like this. I'm actually quoting 6 M's by Donald Byrd, which is up a step, and it's in D, and I'm putting it in C. Another way to play a C7. The first two notes are C to E. Now I'm going to use E flat to E, half step pickup. Hear the difference? Or just use the upper structure, the top 3 notes. So you can see there I'm paying attention to the chord changes, to the C7 and the F7 and the G7. And I'm developing nice little melodies to play around with. So anyways, here's the 3 steps. Step 1 is to use the blues scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only those notes. Step 2 is to add a note, the A natural, and also a phrase which I use over the G7 and the F7. It's a motif that I usually repeat with students, and there's no problem with repeating a motif. Freddie Hubbard, Donald Byrd did it, which brings me to 2 songs I'd like you to listen to if you get a chance. Freddie Hubbard, Blue Frenzy, and also Donald Byrd, 6 M's. That's the number 6 and the letter M apostrophe S. Check that out. So, motifs that you could use on the G7 and F7. Or they could get more complex. So this is real easy and fun. Now the third thing that I do is try to spell out the chords. So you're hitting C7 initially. So F7. That's the C7. 1, 2, G7, F7. Last thing I played was just the blues scale. So it makes it easy. I'm not always thinking I'm coming to the G7, I'm coming to the F7. This way it becomes natural if you learn where it is. It's kind of like a signpost, like you're coming to that certain point and you know you have to make your turn. So that's why I started doing that with students. I say, okay, here's what we're going to do on the G7 and here's what we're going to do on the F7. You could do that with an entire class of children, and it works. So thank you folks for watching my tutorial on how to play the blues. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe. And in the meantime, happy practicing and stay safe.